right, folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, Season 4, Best of the Rest. I'm Mike with EJ, and I normally ask you how's it going, but I wanna take a moment here. I wanna get a little serious, because we have a platform here. And I, even though it's a relatively small audience, I want to take this moment, and speak to them. We're on the eve of, one of the biggest, votes, in our nation's history as we record, and this episode will be released the day after that. Which is, today is Monday, November 4th. Wednesday is Wednesday, November 6th. And I just, I know a lot of people are, it's a very emotional time. A lot of people are going through a lot of stuff going on. And I want everyone to know, I guess that, whatever happens, I think it's just important that we all, stay unified as a nation. And I'm frankly, EJ, I'm just nervous. I think there's a lot of people out there with no backbone, no spine. They're just going to make the wrong decisions. And, if I know it's only the first one, but like if SMU doesn't make it into this freaking bracket tomorrow, like what are we doing here? Miami has 2 losses. Convince me otherwise. They do not have 2 losses. The ACC's rigging it for them. And when that first college football playoff bracket is unveiled tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, if SMU's not in there, what are we doing here? What are you going to do? You're going to do four SEC? The SEC's a joke this year. SEC's an absolute joke this year. They're all a bunch of jokers. And I just think, again, maybe I'm getting a little bit fired up here. Because for the first bracket, sure. But, that's going to tell us a lot about this committee and their decisions that they're going to make over the next however many years.
Well, let me just say something here. One, I think it's very cute.
I'm peeved off.
I think it's cute and adorable that all of a sudden people are realizing that this is the first time, and it was actually Detroit Sports Radio that brought it up, that people are like, oh my gosh, are the ACC and the Big 12 only going to get one bid? Yeah. Hey, hello. Listen to our preview. Hi. Hey, yes. I think you put 2 in the ACC, I think. But yeah. Hi guys. It's me. Yeah. There's no way in hell. Yeah. SMU probably makes it this first time round, but the second they lose and they're the 1-loss ACC runner-up, and you're looking down the barrel of a 2-loss Georgia, which one's getting in? We already know the answer to that, folks.
We do. Georgia's ranked number 2. I still don't know how they're ranked number 2. I don't know how they're ranked number 2. Like, I get it. They had 1 loss, and they probably should have won that game. Well, it should not have been that close either. And honestly, the fact, as I wear my Roll Tide Roll hat here, the fact that Bama is 11 is mind-boggling to me. My mind's in a bottle. In fact, Penn State's 5 or 6. It's a sham. The voters in this country just, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Well, we'll see what the committee does, but I'm going to tell you that I wouldn't. The Big 12 has already played itself out, right? They already got the 1 loss for 2 of those, or 1 loss for Iowa State, 2 losses for Kansas State, which buries them.
Guns up. That's all I got to say. 3 years, 3 straight national championships with Texas Tech. Guns up.
BYU's looking down the barrel of a tough game. We'll get to that later. And yeah, man, that is almost guaranteed to be a 1-team bid. Like a one team
for
that conference.
Yep.
And then, so that gives you 4 for someone. Probably the Big 10 is the surest bet thus far.
Yeah. The Penn State, I should have done it before the pod. I just ran out of time. Apparently, James Franklin gave one heck of a press conference today, in which he took no responsibility, put the blame on other people, and that guy's just trying. I think he wants out at this point. I think he's like, fire me. Find a reason.
Why? I mean, that is who they are. They are a 10-win team.
They are who we thought they were.
that loses the two biggest games on their schedule and will lose the playoff game. That's
Mhm.
it. That's who they are. They are who we thought they were.
They are who we thought they were. You said BYU. Well, should we get to that now? Do I want to get to that now, or you want to go over the week first? BYU
Let's
has a,
let's go over the week first.
and then we'll get to BYU. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I
You
just
dropped some
felt
news
like
on me and then said and record and record. So save for the pod. I like it. Save it
yeah,
for later.
yeah. Well, yeah, and I had the perfect like actually I really liked your lead in, but I also had like a perfect lead in to the question you always ask me. But that's what happens when you think about it ahead of time and you don't go off the cuff.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It doesn't even get asked.
Well, how is it going, pal?
I'm not as confused as you are because right before this episode, I before we started to record, I changed it up on you, and I guess listeners now are maybe confused, maybe not. You probably didn't remember which episode I told you was coming this week.
I remember.
I even told you,
Farms
like,
remembers.
I mean, I even made it a big deal in the outro. Like, hey, it's not just this next episode, but like, strap in.
Yeah.
Well, here on the podcast, we've had a bit of a season, right? We really stumbled out of the gate with all the mistakes we made. We caught our stride, and then we had a little trip up again when I decided to get the schedule wrong. And as you guys know, we really when we decide the trophies we're going to do every season, I put them on a schedule, and I really try to have a trophy we're talking about and releasing on a Wednesday be playing that game being played the following weekend. So it doesn't always work out that way, right? Some trophies aren't played that year, or we always come up to the conundrum of multiple games in a week. Obviously, most likely, it happens the most at the end of the year because that's when a lot of the rivalries are played across college football. But I made a boo-boo a couple weeks ago. And when I looked at the schedule and I started to look at bets always would get me, right? I look Sunday morning, I look to see what the spreads are for college for the next week.
Yep.
And I realized that I had another little boo-boo and had a game scheduled. I had the Beehive Boot scheduled to be released next week and said that was the week of the game. I was wrong. The week of it is being played this weekend. And the Stanford Axe is the last game of the year. So it was always going to be misplaced because we have another great trophy and rivalry to talk about the very last episode of the season. So I made an audible, and because I had this one already researched, we are going to do the Stanford Axe next week. I promise. This week, it's the Beehive Boot. So that is the confusion. Other than that, it's one of those days. Like, most of the time I do think about what I look like on this pod, believe it or not, because, obviously for the Spotify listeners, you're laughing, but we do release this on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
But, today was just like a big over.
It's funny that you think about how you look and you were in the dark for half of this season. But
yeah. I have like my hair is not under a hat.
Looks nice.
But it's super dirty and greasy. That's why.
You're not showered. That's
This is a pushed back, not a slick back. Pushed back. Greasy hair, which actually doesn't look terrible, but
that would slick back real nice.
Yeah, real nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those days. I just thought I'd just be casual.
I got nice. I'm keeping with the Christmas beer theme going. I got Ellicottville sugar cookie here, which I've had. I really like Ellicottville Brewing. They didn't have it when we lived in Virginia, but they do have it here in Pennsylvania. I like sugar cookie beers. They're quite good. I think North Trail or something like that has a good one that they release every year. This is the first time I'm having the Ellicottville one. Pretty excited. Oh man, that's whack. That smells so good. But one thing I'll say, where does I go? Oh, two things, I guess. One, so Saturday, I put up Christmas lights in the bushes. Kara took the kids to her parents' house, and I put Christmas lights up. And we got like a 4 snowman set of lights, like it's 4 lit up snowmen, and
Mhm.
I assembled them and put them out too. Kara's like, well, she pulled in, and instead of being like, wow, everything looks really nice, she's like, why are the snowmen up? I didn't tell you to put the snowmen up. This is tacky. It's November 2nd, blah, blah, blah. How about, hey, good job. Hey, you worked really hard here. You did a lot. You got all the lights in the bushes. You got the pine tree decked. How about something for the effort, you know? But I'm fully in Christmas mode. Like I bought a second Christmas tree last night. I bought a 7 foot tall statue of reindeer with like ornaments and lights and stuff. I'm gonna put that next to my pine tree out front, so it looks like they're trying to deck that tree. Uh, I gotta go buy an inflatable Santa. I'm gonna try to find the tropical version that it might be out of stock in my Lowe's, so I might have to get it shipped from somewhere. Yeah, I the male urge. There's two things about being a American male in his mid 30s. One is uh, the urge when you just put up your lights outside of your house and you just sit back and look at it and go, I need more lights. Like, this is not enough lights. I need more lights. That is just such an
Clark.
innate urge. Yeah, like it's a primal instinct inside. I forget the second thing right now, but I'm gonna just drink this beer here and mm,
Well, I'm still drinking the
Oktoberfest.
yeah, this is you can't, that's blurry. It's not
Sam's
man.
Sam's Oktoberfest.
Yeah, from the spoils of my wife's trip to the beer store, which we talked about last week. Did we talk
Yep, we
about
did.
that?
We did.
Yeah,
We did.
yeah. Well, this is still a Jason Kelsey beer. But I also sent you a snap and your wife a snap yesterday,
Oh yeah, you did.
and I got the same exact vibes back
Oh yeah.
from her.
Yeah.
I told my daughter, because she'd been finally talking about, out of nowhere, Santa Claus, and now everything is, oh, maybe Santa can get that for me, which is nice because she's not demanding it now. But because of that, I had to explain to her when Christmas was. So, we had Halloween first. So this is, I was just asking about this weeks ago. I was like, first it's Halloween, then it's your birthday, and then it's Christmas. And now that like Halloween is over, she is all about Christmas.
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah.
it's Christmas now. It's Christmas now.
Yeah.
We also had to tell her about Thanksgiving, so now she's correcting me again and telling me first, Thanksgiving and then Christmas. But anyway, because of that, I was like, "What, you want to listen to some Christmas music?" I think I sent you guys that snap. Then I was like, "Oh, you want to watch a movie?" She's never seen The Polar Express. Big fan now. We've already watched it twice, and it's November 4th. So
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm on that board with you. Your wife said you too, I think, to in response back to my snaps.
Hashtag me too. Yeah. No, the other thing that was I just remember was the strong urge is just, or thing about being a mid 30s American male is you don't need therapy, you just need a podcast. I was so tired all afternoon, evening. I was just like exhausted. I got good sleep. I think it's just, I don't know if it's a time change or what, but I was just exhausted. And man, I'm finally getting a little bit of a second wind now. We'll see if that continues on. But yeah, you don't need therapy. You just need a podcast, just a place to go talk to your buddy and just get out your hot takes on college football.
Well, and to kind of pivot back there, one of the things I was going to say was, I don't know, I just woke up on Saturday and I just had, that tingling sensation,
You did.
I could just feel it in my plums.
You did. Yeah.
And I told you, I just felt like someone was going to get got.
You did.
And that's what I sent you. I was like, someone's getting got. And you were like, who do you think's going to get got? And you know what? There were quite a few people that
a few people got got.
I mean, I'm just going through the list here because there's actually more than I thought. Illinois.
Yes, Illinois got
which
got.
Is on the fringe of
they got got.
Qualifying.
Yeah.
They got at home. Iowa State, you already talked about that.
Guns up.
Got. Last second.
Kansas State. Game. That was a great game. Watch the end of that. Great game. Kansas State.
Got. The Aggies.
Couldn't happen to a nicer program. Yeah, thank God. I mean, Shane Beamer finally gets that win. dad
Yep.
on the sideline, kid on the sidelines, like, and just, finally gets that big statement win against a ranked team for his program in an electric environment for homecoming. I mean, awesome game through and through. I watched the end of the Iowa State game, watched most of that South Carolina game. I mean, man, they just, and they're talked about on game day too, be careful, tough environment and everything. And when we go play South Carolina,
The cockaboose.
it was like, it was awesome. That was a great, and it wasn't even like, it was close. Like Texas A&M obviously tied it up at halftime, but then that second half, man, just was not particularly close whatsoever.
Oh, and now you're looking ahead and you're like, man, that took a lot out of them, right? So what's their what do they get for beating the Aggies? They get a trip to Nashville, and while that usually is like ha ha ha, right? Not on Pavia's.
Not on his watch.
No. We
You can even say Auburn got though. Auburn stinks, but they I don't think I think Auburn was certainly favored, but Pitt got embarrassed.
Yeah. I told you that just felt wrong, and I could see like so many, as you guys know, and people that do the pick 'em. There were a lot of picks, and I didn't have it enough. 7.5 was just such a bad number. Obviously, it didn't matter, but like that's what really stuck me. But I don't know. It just felt like Pitt wasn't going undefeated, and if you were going to lose, it was going to be on the road, crossing time zones against a good team too. So I didn't think it was going to be a blowout, but that didn't surprise me. And then Dabo losing, you just hate to see it.
Oh, to have ranked Clemson and ranked A&M lose to unranked teams the same weekend, just hate. I just woke up Sunday morning, just heartbroken. Crestfallen, terrible things. And honestly, one of the almost gots. I mean, DJ Lagway stays in that game.
Yeah.
Georgia for sure would have gotten got.
Yep. And that means they're going to win by 40 at Ole Miss.
Yep, that's probably
because Ole Miss then completely destroyed Arkansas. So that's just going to invert 1,000%.
Yeah, that offense is maybe aside from Alabama the most perplexing offense, because like they have it in their bag to score. Mm-hmm. They just pick weird spots to do it. I was out when I was decking the halls outside on Saturday. I guess we should talk about the other big game of the weekend. One of my neighbors just had like the Ohio State fight song and Hang on Sloopy playing like back to back on repeat for like 30-40 minutes, like full blast, like echoing throughout the neighborhood. There's a couple Penn State fans in the neighborhood. It's a good mix. The people on the corner, West Virginia, there's some Pitt folks, a couple Penn State people. And they could certainly, I'm sure, hear what was going on. So, I
mean, I still come away with like, I still feel like I feel the same about those two schools. Like, I don't think there was anything Ohio State did that made me think any more of them. Yeah. And Penn State, like, I don't know. I keep getting tricked into thinking Kotelnicki is, it's going to click sometime, and it just isn't happening. It's just not. So if it's not happening now, it's just not going to happen. Like, defense is solid. Their offense is just not good. And honestly, I don't know.
Drew Aller the 2 trips inside the 5 and 0 points is damning, which says something about the play calling, but also that, their second trip inside the 5 where they had, I text you, I said, this is shades of Texas in the Red River rivalry last year, where they Texas brought in the defensive lineman to try and pound the ball in. And Penn State kept motioning one of their tackles, and like it just had same vibes. Like it just was not going to work. And of course, on the 4th down, they pass it. Like, why not just freaking run the ball again or pass it earlier? But like on that last play, that 4th and goal, instead of motioning the tackle in, there should have been like an audible call or something there to like get the pass out quickly to the offensive lineman, because like there was no one on him, and he was out there enough that he could, if he would have just got the ball and slung it to him, and the guy's 7 foot tall, like just put it up to him, and if he just leans forward, he's in the end zone. So
Yeah, I just like, mind you, humor me, listeners. I realize I am not a professional football coach, or even a collegiate level football coach, or even a high school level football coach. However, I feel like I know a fair amount about football, and the fact that Game Day spent a segment talking about that tackle motion and how it like primarily goes into a zone run, right? And that's what they like to do with that tackle. The fact that they just hammered home an entire segment about it, you knew they were running a play action off of it. You just knew it. And if I know it, Ohio State knows it because they don't have to watch Game Day. But the fact that like Game Day like wanted to highlight it just means how much they've put it on film. And it just didn't make sense. It's fine if you want to run the play action. I liked your idea about like leaking him out because I don't think they've done that. They've probably practiced it. But the problem for me is when you do that, you take away one of your available receivers, like legitimate passing threats, like receiving threats. But they ran all of their routes. They condensed, so they were on the left hash, and they do a condensed formation, right? So that brings the defense in, which means that you would logically think you'd want to then keep them in and beat them to a spot in the open field on the right side of the field. But they condensed the defense. They forced the defense to be tight, ran 2 routes or 3 routes, but they ran it to the condensed short side. Field, you just had like had no chance. The fact you weren't going to trick them because they were ready, but then you like ran all the routes to an area where you made the defense be like it made no sense.
Again, the thing that there should have been a hot call to just get the ball, pass the ball to that lineman, because he was out there split out, and there was every defender was looking right at the ball in the center. Like no one was even out on him. Like the ball could have gotten to him very quickly out there.
Yeah.
And like they're right there. All he had to do was lean forward, like stick the ball out and touchdown. So
it was just it was just kind of like amusing to me that like, again, I'm not watching film. I watched 5 minutes of a segment on Game Day and went DiCaprio style, like, it's the 4th down, the most important play of the game, and I'm like, I've seen this already on film. Like, what are we doing?
They ran that play 2 other times on second and third down. So with a run, but it's mind boggling. Folks, that's why it's Codal Nicky, not Codal Clicky, because that offense is not clicking.
It's not. I'm sick and tired of hearing about that 5-star trio. I think it's time that we just start talking about them being like fine. I'm not saying they're terrible, but like they're fine.
Yeah, I gotta watch Franklin's press conference because, like, I mean, if I just he's done. Like you just gotta move past him because he's just the programs. I mean, I kind of want to go back and look at some of the pick 6 preview, because I think that their recruiting classes the past 2 years just have not been like they've got, like, obviously that 2022 one was great, and that's why we picked them, because it's this the year for them to step up. But yeah, it's not working. I don't know, man. I mean,
I think it's just the classic conundrum, and I think Michigan was running up against this until they cheated, and it was just the fact that like it's just a fact that there's a clear ceiling to Penn State with James Franklin, but that floor is high. Yeah. So, you take a big risk getting rid of him and being way worse. Because the fact that, like, again, he beats the teams that they are supposed to beat, right? They beat the bad teams. They beat the mediocre teams. They do that, right? They win 10 games regularly, but they just don't win the 2 toughest games. And or when they did make that run to the Big Ten championship, and I think they won, maybe did they win that one and then got to it, but they were not in the playoff and then lost, I believe, in their bowl game, their big New Year's Six bowl game. But it's just like there's a big risk that you can get much worse even if he can't get you better. And Harbaugh was the same way, right? It was, you saw what it looked like before him, and he would do exactly that, right? He couldn't beat his rivals, couldn't win the big game. Then they cheated and won those big games, but they had the same conundrum, right?
Yeah,
Because half the fan base want to get rid of them, but half the fan base was terrified to be what they look like now, right? Like this is what it
yeah.
could look like.
But you gotta, I mean, at some point though, like I think Ohio State's probably consider this too with Day. Like I don't see Ryan Day winning a national championship, especially with this team. Like I mean,
No,
it should be an elite team on paper. 7-1. Like I like to your point, I was not impressed with what they did today. I don't think that they're gonna blow anyone. Like there's plenty of teams that can beat them.
yeah,
But like you look at Indiana, goes out and hires Signetti. I mean, Grant played two teams ranked in the top 40, and that's pretty much all they're going to play this
Ohio
year.
State. Just Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State. That's it. But I mean, they can. I think they can get them. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I think that
I'm with you. It's a tough situation because Penn State's a great job. It really is. They're usually top 15 in recruiting. They have plenty of money. They obviously have the Beaver Stadium. You know, they have everything going for them, and they won't. I mean, I guess it can happen, right? I guess Tennessee and Florida, Florida's still trying to get out of that mess of, being where they were, trying to get back to where they were. But I think that's probably the biggest fear, right? Is you don't want to do that, right? And then you can be frustrated that he's not likely to bring a national championship. Hell, he's probably not even going to bring a Big Ten championship.
yeah,
But if he's going to get them in the playoff, it's going to be hard to fire that man.
yeah, yeah.
Even if they don't ever win anything, but
yeah. Well, and that's the thing though, especially now at the 12th team, he's going to get them into the playoff. But
what's every year?
Yeah. What's that going to mean? They're going to be at best every year a one-loss team with the loss to Ohio State. If Oregon ends up on their schedule, they'll lose that one too, and then yeah.
So, I feel the same way, but I just think it's one of those situations where I would be surprised. And for him, why would you leave? Right? You're getting paid a good amount, right? They can afford to pay a coach. And I don't know that he's going to get a better opportunity, right?
No, certainly not. Certainly not. I
will say though, it's kind of lucking out in our favor. I didn't realize this was going to happen for us, but it sounds like we might be convening on Saturday, and it sounds like we might be convening during
on
that
Sunday too.
That Ole Miss, the Ole Miss Georgia, because that's the 3:30. Bama's the night game, so that makes it even. Yeah, no, I assumed it was the night game, and we were gonna get like teased. We were gonna be together, and then I was gonna have to leave before that game started. But no,
we get Georgia Ole Miss at 3:30. Yeah, because they flexed Bama LSU tonight. Yeah, that's great. That's just what we need. I need to have Brian Kelly ruin my Saturday. So
yeah.
Whatever.
All
well,
right.
Yeah. I guess one last thing. Never mind. I was going to say, we spent some time last week talking about like a lot of teams that can control their own destiny. It could be a little bit of chaos in the playoff. Tell you what, man, after this past Saturday, that list is looking very clear. If I look at teams 12 and below, SMU, I guess LSU, if they win. I mean, the SEC schools still control their destiny a little bit, but it's like SMU, Army, Washington State, Colorado. Those are the only teams that I think could really realistically get up into it. So, yeah, that list of potential candidates shrunk greatly.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt like it, right? It felt like that sleepy Saturday. And we just talked about how there's the likelihood of it finishing out like with all these undefeated teams, which is just so low because none of them are like elite, right? Some of these are definitely pretenders. Iowa State, I would still say BYU. So it was only a matter of time before they tripped up, and that weekend was last weekend. And I think
I will say a lot of these teams are weird. Like I think whatever playoff we end up getting, there's going to be a lot of uncertainty because no one's great. Everyone has their flaws. So we'll see. We will see.
Beehive Boot.
Beehive Boot.
That's what we're talking about today, ladies and gentlemen.
A menage a trois.
Well, and that's the thing.
France.
We're talking about the Beehive Boot, and that is a competition played between BYU, Utah, and Utah State.
Woo! This is the
This
first.
is one of the This is the first trifecta. There are a few competitions. Some of them had trophies. Very hard to research, or I would have included them before. This one is a little bit more clear cut and why it got included. So, do you know what this trophy looks like?
I do not know what this trophy looks like.
What do you think the Beehive Boot looks like?
Well, the beehive thing throws me for a loop a little bit. I'm not aware of bees or honey being a staple of Utah's culture. But the boot, I imagine, is a reference to the state of Utah and how I guess you could say it looks like a boot. Um, the very small ankle, but what's like a platform heel, maybe more than anything of a boot. Yeah, I'm guessing it's somehow. What comes to mind is the Arkansas Louisiana State Trophy. That certainly is the image that comes to mind when I think of the Beehive Boot.
So you think it's another golden looking boot?
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
Well, let me try and explain this three-way series here. This
Hold on,
menage
hold
a
on.
trois, like you said.
One thing that I think is probably a feature of this boot, and I know this seems obvious, which is why I didn't say it first, but the winner, when they bring out the boot, they have all three teams come out, and there's a button on the boot, and you press it, and a swarm of bees come out, and the bees attack and sting the two losing teams. And
It's like Hunger Games style.
yes, exactly, yeah. So that was obvious, I'm sure, but it must be said.
Of course.
Yes.
So this three-way series started in 1971. But these teams have been rivals of each other since the early 1900s. So this is going to be a jam-packed one, ladies and gentlemen. So you have the Holy War, which is the rivalry between Utah and BYU.
Right.
You have the battle for the Old Wagon Wheel, which is the rivalry between BYU and Utah State.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the Battle of the Brothers, which is Utah and Utah State.
I like that. I like that battle of the brothers. That could have applied to many different state schools and state universities, and they got it. So I like it.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So you have three rivalries, separate rivalries, and then they decided in 71, let's just make this a three-way series and put a trophy on it, which I'm all about.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
the schools that compete for the boot are, like I said, BYU, Utah, and Utah State. However, Weber State was originally eligible to win the trophy as well. And games against them counted towards opponent's record, determining which determined the winner of the trophy. Mm-hmm. It's unclear when that stopped being the case, but the research said at least by 2012, because when Utah State won the trophy over BYU, BYU's win over Weber State that year was not counted towards the in-state record, which helps decide it. So unclear, but if you all, the listeners, aren't aware, Weber State is an FCS school. So I think that was the sticking point. Eventually, it got to a point where they didn't, the other three are in the FBS division, and Weber State is not. So I think that played a role in that. So in the case of a three-way tie, the winner was chosen by a vote of in-state media. And such an event has happened 4 times previously in 73, 97, 2010, and 2012. And each time that happened, Utah State was awarded the trophy.
Interesting. So Utah State has control over the media, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Rigged.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So in 2017, it also ended in a tie where both Utah and Utah State defeated BYU, but they did not play each other. So no winner was officially awarded the Beehive Boot.
And is this only football? This is only football.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Or the Beehive Boot.
Gotcha.
However, in addition to the Beehive Boot, I talked about the Old Wagon Wheel, BYU and Utah State. But the same three universities, along with Weber State, also play for a statewide trophy in basketball called the Old Bucket. I could not tell you how to say that word.
It literally
is it Cardi B? Is it?
It literally is the Cardi B. I can't roll my R's, but it's the Cardi B. Like that. OQUIRRH. That's actually the only time I've seen like that is so perfectly enunciating the way Cardi B. She might have taken it from this. She might have seen this and be like, okay, and like came up because it's not OKURRR. OQUIRRH is like the perfect spelling for her pronunciation of that sound that she makes.
Yes, and for oh no way. So for all of our listeners from Utah that are screaming because that is the name of the mountain ranges in Utah, and that's why it's named after that. It is actually pronounced, according to Utah History Encyclopedia, Okur.
Okur?
That's how you pronounce it. Old Okur. So the Okur mountain ranges. So I was right. It's Okur. So this is a bucket. Can you scroll down and tell people what you see?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, just a bucket with a picture of Cardi B. No. Wow. Just her face just slapped on it. Oh gosh, they need a sponsor for this trophy. So this is the trophy for statewide basketball trophy.
Correct.
Okay. This is nice, man. This is nice. This is it's a nice like wooden circular base and then a bronzed bucket, but it's a very short bucket. This is a chode looking bucket here. And it's got a nice like wrought it's probably copper or bronze or whatever it is handle to it, and there's a plaque on the front that says the Okur bucket with the names of the schools on it, and then an outline of the state of Utah with the location of the schools and what looks like to be Salt Lake on it as well, and the state seal. That's a nice looking trophy there. I like that quite a bit.
Yes. So it's named after the Oak Mountains to the west of Salt Lake City, as well as it drew inspiration from the old oaken bucket. You're the only one that hates that goddamn bucket.
I tell you what, this thing beats the shit out of that goddamn bucket, though. It's way better. It's very cool.
So every year from 1974, this trophy was awarded to the in-state college teams. So the University of Utah, Brigham Young, BYU, Utah State, Weber State, and it also used to include Utah Valley University and Southern Utah University in this competition as well. So how it came into circulation. So in 1974, a proposal was presented to create a trophy, and the concept was accepted for the first 2 years and awarded to Utah State, although the trophy, like the actual design hadn't been decided yet. So they just decided, decided that they wanted a trophy. And but they hadn't had the design until 1977. So after Weber State won the title for the first time, an Ogden businessman, Ogden, Utah is where Weber State is at, located a pioneer bucket at a local auction, complete with the history of how it had been found, and it became the traveling trophy emblematic for the Utah College basketball.
Yeah, this thing's great, man. Very, very cool. Yeah, I like it a lot. This is one where it's like worth checking out our Instagram to take a look at the trophy picture because this is pretty dope.
And Utah has won the bucket 14 times, and then that's the most of any of the schools, followed by Utah State and BYU with 9 victories, and then Weber State has won it 4 times.
This looks like something Jeremiah Johnson cooked his dinner out of. This is fantastic.
Oh, there were some baked beans cooked in that for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or maybe some liquid gold.
Maybe
Get
there's gold in them hills.
the Velveeta commercials where the
Yeah.
guy's cooking it in the.
Oh, I was
aisle.
tracking you.
Go
I
on,
was
get.
tracking you.
Unfortunately, in November of 2010, it was announced that the trophy would be retired. And this was due to the recent changes in the conference alignments, with Utah leaving the Mountain West for then the Pac-12, BYU leaving the Mountain West for the West Coast Conference. Obviously, now they're both together in the Big 12. So they decided to retire it, and it was last won in by Utah State in 09 and 2010, and it was donated to Utah State University to the Utah Sports Hall of Fame. So it sounds like it's something that you can go see if you go to the Utah Sports Hall of Fame.
Yes, a classic vacation destination, the Utah Sports Hall of Fame.
Hey man, if you would have known about this on before you went on your trip out to Utah, would you have tricked Kara into going up?
I might have stopped. Depends where the Utah State Hall of Fame is. If it's in Salt Lake, we were there.
No, I think where is Utah State located? Provo is BYU, Salt Lake is Utah. I think Utah State. I mean, they're not far from each other. Where is that? Logan, that's what it is. Logan. Actually, this might be far. Logan might be at the bottom of the state. Let's see.
Well, we went around that whole freaking state, so.
All right. So Logan.
So it's at Utah State's Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Logan is north. Oh, okay. There you go.
Oh.
So you start off almost at the border of Idaho, and you do Utah State, and then Ogden is halfway between that and Salt Lake City, and then you have Salt Lake City, and then Provo is the furthest south. Interesting. The more you know. All right, you ready to get back to the boot?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where Logan is here. Stupid computer defaults to Yahoo. Microsoft, come on. Oh yeah, I would have never gone up there.
Yeah, it's in the north. I didn't realize. I thought it was south. I thought it was next to Provo.
Yeah, I would have never gone up there. I guess that's maybe how you get to Park Valley from Salt Lake City. Take that up, then go over. So you could do that. Yeah. Didn't go Park City though.
I do kind of want to do that, right? Like the Olympic ski park that they do for the summertime, though. Like do all the mad water slides that they do for the long jump skiing.
Oh, dude, I went to Whiteface Mountain up in. Oh no, that's not how you get to Park City. Park City's right. Yeah, that's not how you get to Park City. I was looking at Park Valley.
Oh,
yeah. So
classic mistake.
Classic mistake. Yeah. Yeah, would like to go to Park City though. I went to Whiteface Mountain up in New Hampshire, and where they had the that used to be where they had the stuff for the Winter Olympics, and that's where the Miracle on Ice was and everything like that, and that's pretty dope. Pretty dope. Back to the boot. Yes.
First boot was won by Utah State. BYU has the most wins in this series since 71, with 23, followed by Utah with 15, and Utah State with 9. I mean, is it that surprise? How BYU works is a lot of the recruits go on their mission to begin with, their 2-year mission. So by the time they're starting their college football career, and by the time they're ending it as seniors, they're grown-ass men. So it's not overly surprising.
Well, Utah has that going on now too with camerizing, so you right. Can be 34 years old, and yeah.
So after residing in Logan for the first 4 years of its existence, the trophy spent the most time in BYU, like I'd mentioned, and the Cougars have won the series 19 out of the next 27 after those first 4, including 5 in a row in the mid 80s. Let's see here. So in 2021, BYU defeated both Utah and Utah State, leading to being the de facto winner for the first time since 2016. And BYU at the time, oh, here we go. This is what I was trying to get at. So Utah won it in 2016, and the trophy stopped being awarded in 2016. So
Oh,
Utah won it and decided we're not going to award it anymore.
what the hell?
But in 2021, when BYU defeated both the other two schools, they inquired about the whereabouts of the trophy. I don't know, thinking like, hey, we really like this trophy. You should probably not be hiding it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, after 2 weeks after inquiring about it, it was found and returned to BYU.
They probably kept it at the top of that water tower. Safe place for it.
It's a great place.
Yeah.
Scroll down. Tell me what you see.
I love it.
Tell the listeners what this guy.
Scroll down. Love it when you tell me. Whoa, baby. That's wow. That's just a boot. That is, folks. What I'm seeing here. When did this trophy start? When did this trophy begin?
In the 70s.
71. The series started in 71.
Yeah.
Folks, this is an old school boot. Like a I guess kicking boot or something like that. Like it laces up. The boot goes up to like the mid calf, past the mid calf, and laces the whole way up. I guess I don't know if like all football players wore this or just a boot, but it's the boot on a wooden, just a little wooden base, very small, very skinny, and then there's a vertical part of it with a vertical part near the toe of the boot that's only a couple inches long, and there's a plaque on it, and engraved on the plaque is the initials of the school with the year, and then on top of it is the old school football trophy of a kicker with his arms out to the side, and he's like punting the ball. Yep. Oh, it looks like they got rid of that piece though, and now it's just the leather boot on a piece of wood that says Beehive Boot. That's awesome. That's it's just a boot. It's just a Beehive Boot. It's a boot.
It is a boot.
And I'm not just being Canadian here, saying the word about. No, it's a boot.
So first instituted in 1971, the idea was originated with Dave Schulthis. He is a former sports information director of BYU, and then the other sports information directors from Utah State, and Weber State all agreed that they should have a rotating trophy for this, and they decided to name it the Beehive State or the Beehive Boot because it represents the dominance of football within the confines of the Beehive State. And it was decided that the trophy would be symbolic of the people who built Utah, the Mormon pioneers.
So is that like a pioneer boot is what it's supposed to be? Okay, yes. I didn't know. It looks like back in the 20s what would be like a football boot. But whose boot is this?
Well, so they needed to find a pioneer boot. So they had the idea. Yes. They wanted to name it the Beehive Boot, and they needed to find a pioneer boot. But that was a difficult task because pioneers wore their boots until they just fell apart.
Right.
So there really weren't very many laying around. But after a very intense search that included numerous personal calls, radio announcements, Tom Beasley, who is an antique dealer living in Cache Valley, donated a pair of boots to use for the trophy. And the boot itself is estimated to be more than 100 years old and is an actual authentic pioneer boot.
Yeah, you can tell it's worn like at the top of the boot where you like a boot of this size, like I said, it comes up to mid calf. You'd have to like pull it on. It's worn from the gentleman pulling it on. There's wear and tear around the bottom too. It's a brown leather boot. I should note that too. It's a brown leather boot. It's laced all the way up. Tom Beasley. So Pam Beasley's uncle twice removed on her mother's side.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So, and for the listeners too, like picture picture a leather
Father side,
version of a
father side.
wrestling boot, right? Like what
Yes.
a professional like WWE wrestler would wear.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So the trophy then became a memorial to Steve Smilinich.
They're getting you with the S last names.
Yeah, Steve Smilinich, who was a former sports writer for the United Press International. He was a native Utahn, and he was unfortunately tragically killed in an automobile accident in New York City in the 70s. And prior to his death, he was the National College sports editor and assistant sports editor for the United Press International. So
Gotcha.
they decided to, following his death, to make this a memorial to him, which I think is a pretty cool idea.
Yeah. Very touching. I wish they wouldn't have got rid of the little plaque and a little trophy next to it, but all in all, looks good.
And that's going to do it for us. Let's get to our rankings.
Let's get to our rankings.
Rooks.
I mean, just first off, I didn't know that Utah was the Beehive State. Secondly, even though this thing doesn't have bees coming out of it, it's authentic, it's gritty, it's unique. Yeah, I love it. I wish it still had that trophy piece on the side. I don't think I'm going to knock it down though. I think still a 5. I'm not going to take like a half point off because it doesn't have that. It was cool. It was a cool feature. It looked a little flimsy on there, so I could understand if it fell off or something like that. So
yeah,
though it's very good.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 5 too. I just think like it's unique, and the fact that like that is just like some dude's fucking boot. Like,
yeah.
Could you imagine that?
Pioneer boot over 100 years old. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, it was probably like a tragic reason why it's not being like was not used enough to like to still be around.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. The history.
Great, rich history. Started in the 70s. Try to find the boots over 100 years old. Try to find it. Good bit of rivalry back and forth. The trophy was lost at one point. Very exciting. And it's been circulated again, even though it stopped circulation. Don't hoard trophies, folks. That's bad. We don't like that.
It is also, I believe, exchanged on the field. I think I saw some pictures of people holding it by the base, walking around with it. So it is exchanged.
Give me a 5. That's good.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go 5 too.
Yeah.
It's been around for.
I don't know what I'd knock it for.
50 years. I love the idea of them all agreeing they needed a trophy. They came up with a great idea, right? I think that's a great idea, and I love that it took them a while to get it right. They didn't just bail on the idea and went, fuck it, let's do something different. It was like, no, we're gonna find a goddamn pioneer boot. Like, period.
And then they got the Cardi B bucket for basketball too. Like that's I'll include toss that into the history, the history of the rivalry. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good to me.
And mind you also we can get that rivalry.
Yeah, 5. I mean, 5. Like three-way rivalry. You said, all these people agreed. Like they do it for other sports too. Clearly, it means a lot to them. To have this. I really, really like this concept.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you have 3 programs that all have rivalries with each other. One of which is a trophied rivalry, and another is one of the most contentious rivalries, the Holy War, which is being played this weekend, and is going to be the de facto Beehive Boot game because Utah State lost to Utah earlier in the year, and Utah State does not play BYU. So this is going to be the winner of this will win it. So I don't think you can get better than that. 3-way, and then all three also have separate rivalries with each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is about as much of a 5 as you can get.
Yeah, that too. That's a good point that they all have separate rivalry trophies with each other too. Um, yeah, and then that brings us to competitiveness.
Let's
I
see.
mean,
What did
what's the
I?
series? What's the series at?
Yeah, it was BYU had won it 23 times. Utah's won it 15 times, and Utah State's won it 9. Now, mind you, there's some years where it's not awarded, but when it is awarded, that's the numbers. So you basically have to win. Most years you have to beat both these schools to get it, right? So if
Yeah, and
you're
it's
getting
it's
that
gonna be
23,
close. It's gonna
yeah.
be close. Like Utah BYU is gonna be the closest, obviously, but Utah State is no slouches themselves. You know, gosh, this is. I mean, everything in me is saying perfect score, fives across the board. Yeah, let's go for it, man. 5 for me. Yeah,
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 I would agree, and I think like one of the points that I like, and mind you, I get that some of the Utah State games were awarded via tiebreaker, but the fact that that I would say even though they all kind of started in the same spot as far as being Mountain West schools, and Utah and BYU have grown out of that. I think the fact that Utah State is still stuck around, and and it's actually hilarious because I had one of my bosses went to BYU, so he tried to play that card of like the obviously the holy war, and Utah is the big rival. But when he talked about Utah State, there was so much smarm, and I was like,
yeah.
this is
Smarm.
also a bit of a rivalry too.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
he didn't
yeah,
necessarily want to call it out, but
yeah,
like it was not just like, oh, this is we don't care about that. It's just Utah. They
yeah,
also very much enjoy beating the non-Mormons at Utah
yeah,
State. So,
yeah. Top
uh,
tier.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I'd say yeah,
nothing.
competitive for me. What did I give it a number? I was going to go 4.5, but I think I didn't finish my thought. I think I'm going to go 5 2.
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
think
I was considering 4.5, but I
yeah,
I don't. I that seems. Let's just go perfect score. Like,
yeah,
is this the first time that's happened?
it might be.
The only thing I can think of, like off the top of my head, is Red River could be perfect score territory. Um, so what would I change? Nothing. That being said,
Beside a trap door for bees.
beside trapdoor for bees, but what would I? How would I expand it? I started thinking as we're talking, what are other states that could benefit from a trophy like this? I think that there's a couple. I think California, you look at like USC, Cal, UCLA, um, who else? Huh?
Stanford.
Stanford. You know, you could do like a big golden bear.
Fresno, if you wanted to flirt with like some of the South
San
Dakota,
Diego
South,
State.
yes, not South Dakota, San Diego, yeah.
Yeah. You could do San Jose State too. You could do a big golden bear for them.
Yes.
Texas, TCU, Texas Tech, Texas, obviously, Baylor. You could do,
Florida has one. I didn't include it when we did any of our seasons because it hasn't been used in so long. I don't even know if the trophy still exists, but it's because um, Florida doesn't want to play the ACC schools just because of how tough the SEC is, and
yeah,
they can't be bothered by it. So that one already kind of exists, but
yeah,
it doesn't really happen very often.
yeah. I think, yeah. I mean, in Texas, you could do like a big golden longhorn, or like they already have the gold cowboy hat for the Red River.
I mean, there's one that exists that might excite you now that would have never excited you 10 years ago.
Hmm.
So I am not aware of this. I apparently there's a trophy, but there is the Michigan Mac series. So you
Oh,
have Eastern, Western, and Central apparently have a series together.
that's pretty good. You could do that for the Ohio Mac schools too. Bowling Green, Miami, Toledo. Yeah, that would be good. Ohio.
Wait, isn't Bowling Green in Kentucky?
I thought Bowling Green was in Ohio.
I think it's in Kentucky. Like
Is it?
Akron in
Akron.
Ohio, and
Zips, yeah.
yeah, I'm fairly certain. And the only reason I
Nope, Bowling Green, Ohio.
really
Oh wait, no. Bowling Green State University. Yep. It's in Ohio.
okay,
Yep. Yep.
trying to think of where else we could do this.
It might be like almost Kentucky.
Almost country, West Virginia.
Uh yep, Bowling Green State University. BGSU. Bowling Green, Ohio. Uh yeah, that would be great. There's a lot of yeah. I mean, you could do it. You could actually do a really cool one for the schools in Philadelphia. Penn.
Yeah, I mean, do they have?
Apple.
Yeah, they have
They,
like
they,
a. Do they do it for basketball? Like I know they have like
they
a series,
did.
but I don't know if they had a trophy.
Yeah, I don't know that they have a trophy. They did have a basketball series, like a state, like city series.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you do something for the Carolinas as a whole: Gamecocks, Clemson, NC State, Duke, UNC. Um,
You could do Colorado,
Colorado.
State, Colorado Air Force.
Yeah. Now I'm just thinking about the Snow Belt, that conference that they're trying to will into existence of the Dakotas, Montanas. That I really want that conference to exist. Yeah, yeah. This is we need more of this. We if you're gonna if eventually we're gonna get to super conferences, this is what we need. Regional breakdowns like this.
Yeah. So I mentioned that the de facto Beehive Championship game will be played this weekend during the Holy War when Utah, or actually when BYU travels to Rice Eccles Stadium. This couldn't be more perfect because this is your Pac-12 after dark. This is your 10:15 on ESPN. You're going to have a nice day, full day of college football, some big SEC games going on. And right when you're, settling into bed, Mike, maybe you're angry. Hopefully you're not. You can just take like solace in knowing that you have this one lingering, that you have Utah and BYU. So
Yeah, well, the last time Bridget and Andrea stayed at my house, it was third Saturday in October, and Alabama had lost to Tennessee that year. That was the last loss prior to this previous loss. So hopefully history doesn't repeat itself with a catastrophic, heartbreaking loss for my Tide. But we'll see. That's life.
And the line is, at least as it was Sunday, yesterday when I did this, -4.5 in favor of BYU. Thoughts?
-4.5 in favor of BYU. Be hard pressed to bet against the Cougars right now, man.
But doesn't this just feel? This is one of those moments, and it hasn't happened as often as it has in the past, but like you get a Utah team at home at night, real night game for them, Rice Eccles, against the rival who is overhyped, undefeated, and you're thinking, well, Utah stinks, right? Like they don't have Cam Rising, but they do, but they don't. This seems like a trap if you're BYU. This
While
is a get got because they're not incredible, right? They are undefeated. Yes, they have beaten some mediocre to bad teams. It's not like they've looked like world beaters even in some of these games. And yes, I get the idea that thus far they've looked fantastic. But like this just feels like no one wants stinky Utah, which means it's gonna be an outright Utes win.
but when I think of trap, I think of like A&M going to South Carolina, right? Like coming off a high, you're ranked, and now you go to South Carolina, but you're really thinking about Texas at the end of the year, and I just got to get these. But even then, it's tough. I don't think this is a trap. I don't think they're looking past them. Like this is the holy war. They get up for it. So I don't think it's a trap in that they certainly have. Utah certainly has their attention. Like BYU is not going to sleepwalk into this one. But it is a hostile environment with a lot of hate and a rivalry game.
Do you
So
believe that BYU is a 12-0 team? Like, do you really think, like, after watching them, do you really believe that they're a 12-0 team?
I'm not sure. I think that they're like, an 8-0 team, but like they win football games. So
That's fine, but you had the like. I'm not trying to attack you, but I'm just thinking from a mindset of like, I didn't think Pitt was an undefeated team. They were going to get beat. SMU, I don't know what they have left under the schedule, but like, I don't think SMU or were they actually was SMU they had already lost, right?
No, they're undefeated.
They're undefeated too.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at the schedule, and when you're thinking, okay, well, where's BYU going to lose? They're not going to go undefeated at night at Rice Eccles when no one is counting. Like, I don't know. I guess I just think like we give rivalries, a little bit more credence, but like,
Oh no, SMU did lose. SMU lost the game. They
okay,
lost one.
so that's what. So I don't know. I just think like I don't think they were an undefeated team. I don't think BYU is. And if you're looking for a loss, this just seems ready, right? Because how could the 4-4 Utah team beat them, right?
Yeah.
Then why is it 4.5? Why isn't it 7? Right? Like if these guys are so good, some of it's rivalry, but like at the same time, I don't know. I would. I might have to put money where my mouth is. I really am feeling Utah. I don't even know who's going to play. Quarterback, don't even think I care, to be honest with you.
I'll think about it a little bit more. I mean, to your point,
Because their only other like road game is at Arizona State, which is looking trickier than anyone thought it would be.
Scatterbo's real
right.
good. Yeah.
So and that could be the loss. Maybe that's the loss. The mountain team goes to the desert, and it's a nighttime desert game against the team. But I don't know. Something about me just thinks that no one's gonna bet Utah.
If I were making a pick, which I might make a pick, I can certainly see this. I think the most likely scenario is this comes down to a field goal.
Yeah.
If it comes down to a field goal, then 4 points is all you need. So, yeah.
I'm excited.
Interesting line though. The fact they opened at 4.5 is very.
I mean,
interesting.
It kind of writes itself in the sense that hasn't it been Zach Wilson's little brother at Utah taking over?
I think.
So then baby Wilson's going to beat big Wilson's team. I mean, I don't know. This just has like you said, trap maybe isn't the best way to describe it, but this just seems like a BYU team that's rolling. They think, it's going to be that jabbing that, all week long about this rivalry. And if this was in Provo, I'd feel different. If this was at,
it's just that line.
Edwards.
That -4 is just begging you to take Utah. It's just like, come on, like this is going to be a field goal game. It's in Salt Lake. It's at night. Come on, take me. Utah's going to worse by a field goal.
was better. I think like if you're looking at an 8-0 top 10 team and they're traveling on the road against a 4-4 team, even with a rivalry taken, like this should probably be 7. This shouldn't be 4. This should
Right,
not
which
be a
it just
possession.
it feels like Vegas is like begging you to take Utah.
Here, let me tell you where the money is. Because if the line, if this is a heavy BYU money, then this line should be way higher, right? And the fact that they're not leveling it out also would tell you
It's
something.
now -4. Most of the money is on BYU. Or sorry, matchup. No, I'm reading the wrong thing. Matchup predictors, BYU.
Yeah, so because FanDuel gives you those numbers. At least
Tell me where the
their
money
book.
is. Yeah, tell me.
So,
where
and this is just their book, right? So obviously there's other books that people use. So for FanDuel's books, and we should like consider, because there are paid subscription like that can do this. Oh, okay. 90% of the money makes up 90% of the bet for BYU. Why is that
money and 90% of the bet is BYU?
And you want to know what the number is now? 3.5. So why is that number going backwards if everyone's betting BYU?
It's very interesting.
Why is that number 3.5 right now?
That's very interesting.
And I just looked at it yesterday, and I just said all of the money's on BYU. So this should be ballooning towards Utah.
It's very interesting.
It is very interesting. I might just have to do it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I don't even care. We're close. We're close in our pick'em too. We both are in contention now. You're welcome, Josh. I hope you're listening here, because you had a winless week last week. Had I not been gracious with our pick'em challengers when everyone took Army and Daily, that was a scam, and that's why I said something, because there was no reports, and apparently he didn't practice all week long, and there were no reports about it, and then he's out with an illness at 10:30 a.m. So I didn't think it was right.
You did right by the nation there.
So Josh, you're welcome for still being appointed, but we're coming down to it. 3 weeks left. There ain't much left. This is the time to make your moves. This is where this competition is going to be won or loss. There's quite a few people in contention. This will be an exciting race down the stretch, just like last year.
This is the worst time of year. It's dark out at 5 o'clock. There's only 3 weeks of college football left.
I know.
Just transport me back to September.
Reset. Let's do it again.
Run it back.
All right, folks, we've taken enough of your time. That'll do it for this week. Follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and join us next week when I promise we will talk about the Stanford Axe.
You sure about that?
I promise. I got the schedule right this time. For Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.